Hey, coaches, welcome back to Football Talk with Coach Chip. As I record this, it's end of May, early June. You'll probably just going through your off weeks, getting ready to start summer practice. I know I've been talking to some youth league guys. They're kind of like doing OTA kind of things, almost like mini camps. Man, y'all hardcore. That's good stuff. Well, this video here, power or buck? Yes, please. Now, this would be like asking me, would you like pizza or buffalo wings? The answer, of course, is always yes, please. Why is it either or? Why can't it be both? I was inspired to do this talking to a coaching buddy of mine. He was calling, check on me yesterday, and I'm fine. I've been taking my lures out for swims and drowning some worms and some crickets over the past few weeks. And I was having a good time doing it. Don't tell our good friends at PETA what I'm doing. Maybe I'm making up for it, the positive vibes, by taking my lures out for swims. For those of y'all who have a clue what I'm talking about going fishing. And he was talking about, he has a Facebook page that deals with the wing tee, and he had posted a diagram of a buck. And somebody had commented, well, that's just power, isn't it? And it got me to thinking that, yes, there are people that think that they're redundant to have them both in your offense. And I don't believe so. For years, we've run both. So without any further ado, let me do a few things I have to always do. Don't forget, go ahead right now, subscribe to the channel and like the video. You know you're going to like it. Don't wait to the end to like it. Go ahead and like it now. Just click the thumbs up. And at the end, click subscribe. Also, do this for me if you will. Stay with me till the end. I've got a page of the free resources available to subscribers. So please check that out. It's a little, maybe hard to see. I don't know. If you can't see it on your device because it's too small, if you're blind as Coach Chip is, I'm blind in one eye and I can't see out the other. Hit me up and I'll email me and I will send you a more legible, readable list. And because it's screenshots of the things from my computer. And also available, of course, is the Gap Down Backer Manual and the Big Book of Bucks. And you'll see that at the end. And they both kind of go hand in hand with this. So I was talking to my friend and he was like, man, it ticked me off. I said, well, I don't know. I said, why did it tick you off? And he said, come on my page and tell me what's what. And I was like, well, yeah. I said, but what ticks me off is when people think it's either or the plays are practically the same. And they're not. There are ways to do it, but we'll talk about that as we go through it. Let's get started. What do you think? You want to go ahead? All right, so here you see the two of them side by side. I got them both against the same defense. And I did do the formation a little bit different with the Z and the H. Of course, this is my stuff. Let me go ahead and say, this is not a gap power that we're talking about. This is the gap down backer power that hits a little bit wider. There are no double teams on this power because everybody's blocking their gap down backer tracks. You can see how the fronts are blocked very similar. The front side getting the gap down backer stuff going. Now, the reason why I played games with the Z's and the H's in these diagrams is because I get asked so often, even when I speak at clinics or when I do Zooms with coaches, and they say, well, what do you do to keep from giving it away? And I will state that when we first started doing this years ago, that I noticed right off the bat, after a few games, defenses yelling out when we put the H in the B gap, that people going, power, 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 or counter, 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 whatever. So that was kind of a giveaway. And I understood that. And so we evolved. And over time, we figured out, we'll move these guys. We'll move the H. What I mean by move him, start him off in the wrong place. It's something we had done 100 years ago with a staff that I worked on like 20, 30 years ago. And you've heard me talk about it before. We call it Maverick. And once the H learns his formations and learns the offense and knows what he's supposed to do when the ball snapped, knows who he's blocking, you can make this what we call Maverick. And people say, why'd you call it Maverick? Because a Maverick is a wild horse, does whatever the crap he wants to do. And just tell him to line up wherever. Make sure the quarterback knows what's going on. Two people need to get the Maverick call, the quarterback and the H. or the plug or the sniffer or the Y or the F, whatever you call that guy right here. And I've told you before, he's an H because H stands for hybrid, because that's what he is. He's like hybrid fullback, hybrid tight end. So we call Maverick, and it tells him to line up wrong, as long as where he needs to be right before the ball snap. Think about it. So if you put him over here, they've got to line up to 2 by 2. Then you bring him in motion, and you can gear him down right about the A gap, and then he kicks out on the power. All right, you line him up over here. You're in 2 by 2. They've got to line, defense has got to line 2 by 2. Now you're making them move right before the snap. He comes in motion, gear down a little bit, snap, and it's almost like the down block is almost like a crack. Got to be careful how you teach that. He can't tee off on that 5 tech. Not anymore. So that's how you do it. And you say, well, they're still there right before the snap, Coach Chip. They are, but guys, remember we're talking about kids. Now we're not playing the Packers here on Sunday afternoon at Lambeau. Those guys get paid to do it. We're not talking about, SEC, Big 12, Big 10. We're not talking about those kind of kids or those kind of players. We're talking about guys, and we've talked about that before. And remember, that's who you're coaching against. If you can move them around a little bit and put them there, that makes all the difference in the world. And notice the action looks so similar. See, to me, the power and the buck complement each other. As a matter of fact, in our phone conversation with my friend, I told him, the power kind of replaced the down when we did away with the down just because we started doing so many 3 wide receivers, and I didn't want to bring a tight end or have a real tight end to run a true old school wing T down play. And who are you going to run it with? We did it a little bit on short yardage when we had a big quarterback that could run it. But it kind of replaced the down because it puts that 5 or that 9 tech if you have a tight end in the game, in a bind, so to speak. Because notice the action in the backfield on both these plays are so similar, especially when you do it sidecar. In my big book of bucks, I show you how you can run buck from pistol or from even under center out of I. You could run both of them that way. You run your buck and run your power from right here. Now, the timing really isn't that different. You just have to make up for it with your steps in the backfield, like flat and come downhill and then bend that joker out. And in some ways, it's really good because it may suck those linebackers up. But that's not why we're here today. I just did these out of sidecar. There's several of these things now I just did for the sake of argument. I had to do it. I didn't want to keep you here for an hour and a half or 2 hours because those of you who have talked to me on the phone or have met me in person at clinics or done Zooms with me know I'll chase a rabbit, okay, and I'll spook the rabbit and then chase him. And when it comes to football, I can talk all day, which is why, another reason why it's called Football Talk with Coach Chip. It's my channel. I can talk as much as I want to, whether anybody listens or not. These two plays complement each other. I don't think it should ever be an either or. They're not redundant. I have a good friend that was very instrumental in my coaching career that warned me about having too many plays that hit the same gap or hit had the same point of attack. And as you can see, these have different points of attack. The power is designed to kick out the C-gap player. In this case, the MLOS is the DN here. You're kicking him out with your H, your sniffer, your plug, your F, your Y, whoever that is you have in the backfield, this cat right here. And you're trying to run that thing right in here. Now, different defenses, it will hit a little different. Like against odd fronts, we block it this way, and sometimes that joker hits A-gap, like an A-gap power, even though we're not getting the doubles at the point of attack. It has done it. You go back and look at some other videos, you can see us doing it, especially on our power read. If that joker, that DN that we don't kick out on the power read runs upfield, we'll hit that thing screaming through the A-gap. But it's designed pretty much C-gap, B-gap play. You're kicking out the C-gap player, and you're trying to create a running lane right here. You're trying to get a seal here and a seal here. A little channeling of Lombardi there for you. Now, the buck requires a down block on the C-gap player, not a kick-out block. So right there, boom, even though they look a lot alike, they got down, down, kick, and all that kind of stuff. They do look a lot alike, but one's designed to kick out the C-gap defender. The other one's designed, you block down on the C-gap defender. And then you kick out the first ugly color outside of the down blocks. And it's designed for D-gap or wider because it could bounce wide. It's like if this guy right here, the force player, comes screaming down through here and you wind up logging him or pinning him in here that thing would bounce out, and the wrapper now gets out here, and it looked more like a Packer sweep or something like that. Right? And I think maybe some of the confusion or a misunderstanding of it actually comes from the Packer sweep, because Coach St. Vincent of Lombardi called his play the power sweep, one of the greatest plays. That play, I don't know if it's in the Hall of Fame, but it ought to be. But maybe that's why some people think the power and the sweep, or the power and the buck, I should say, are the same play, and they're not. That was just a name. What some people call the Packer sweep, Lombardi called it the power sweep. And maybe that's why some people think it's redundant, all that. All right, let's look. The power of the buck. You see the blocking rules are very similar. And you saw in the picture, the previous diagrams, there were no tight end, but I decided to put that in there. Just the default thing. You don't have to have a tight end. But if you do, it's gap down backer. Play side tackles, gap down backer. On the power, the play side guard's gap down backer. The center is back. The center doesn't have to worry about A gap at all. Play side A gap. Got to shut down that backside A gap, and he'll block all the way back to a 3. I'd like to tell him to look at that against a 3-3, look at that stack linebacker on the backside to see if he's coming as he's stepping back. And then on the power, the backside guard pulls and wraps to the play side linebacker. It's a tighter wrap. Okay, it's a tighter wrap than the buck. You're going in that as tight as you can get it, because the down blocks are tighter, because you're actually getting a down block from your front side play side guard. So you're looking to hug that rump line created by the down blocks. That's in the gap down backer manual, and getting vertical much faster off your pull to get in that play side linebacker's business. And then the backside tackle gap hinges. And if you use a fullback and H or whatever, that's who kicks out your end man line of scrimmage on your power. Now, some people have done it where, especially against the 9, they'll kick out with the inline tight end, and that'll work too. Now, the Bucks blocking rules, very similar. First 2, gap down backer on the play side. Yet the play side guard, instead of blocking down, he's going to pull and kick the first ugly color he sees, usually outside the last down block. Skip down here to wing back or H. The center now just can't block back in case they give you an underfront or a shaded nose. They've got to get the A-gap DL, whoever that is, wherever it is. If it's on the front side, unless you get in the big book of bucks, and you can see how we handle strong side shades and 1 eyes and 2 eyes and all that good stuff. And now the backside guard's going to do the same thing almost, pull and wrap to play side linebacker. But notice I wrote in here, pull wide. He's still looking for that rump line, but because you've created the wider down block from the wing or the H, now that rump line is wider. I'll show you a diagram. It'd be a wide pull. When I used to use wristbands, I even put on there, like on power, it said pull tight, wrap to LB. On the buck, the wristband said pull wide, wrap to LB. And both of them have eyes inside. When you're pulling and climbing, pulling and wrapping, eyes inside, always attack inside numbers. That is also in the gap down backer manual and the big book of bucks. All right, now here we got some diagrams. The powers are going to be on the left and the bucks are going to be on the right. This is the same one that was in the title card. And you can see, and I did it without a tight end. I got some coming with a tight end. You can see how it hits right here. And I did it this way on purpose because I want it to be basically the same formation and see the same action. Kind of a half sidecar, half offset. Come right here, make it look like buck, about 2 steps. Come downhill, get the ball 2 steps lateral toward the sideline, and then make your cut even on power to make it look like buck. Now, you don't have to be in sidecar. You can run buck with the running back set behind the quarterback. We never hung our hat on that. We did it. We practiced it. I ran it a little bit one year, and I was just so in bondage to the old way of doing it. But I've looked at it over the years, I really think you can because you can balance up the defense, especially if you start like these 2 diagrams here, set that joker right. Now, the defense has got to balance up. They got to balance up. And if they give you strength to the field, you may want to run power or buck to the boundary. Both plays are great boundary plays. It's not like jet or rocket or a traditional old school sweep that you want to run to the wide side of the field and just outrun jokers to the sideline. These are great plays into the boundary. So you see, I got them looking alike as best I can. Notice the guard's tight wrap. Now, the dotted line right here is to remind you, if a linebacker triggers and tries to do a run through, that's why I like that flat skip pull. It's not flat and that he comes out flat. It's flat that he's looking at the line, looking across at the defense, and it can see if that linebacker triggers, he's coming. Okay, you plug where he plugs. And notice how tight it hits right here. And you got your J block on your in man on the line. Over here on the buck, again, they look very similar. Notice how everything looks the same for the running back, but instead of getting downhill here in B gap, coming out here and hitting C gap. Again, this can put the end man on the line of scrimmage in conflict, or as we like to say in South Alabama, in a bind. You put that joker in a bind because now, am I getting kicked? Am I getting down blocked? Are they coming under me? Are they coming outside of me? What's going on? Same thing that you get from under center wing T with the buck and the down. For those of you that understand wing T right now, I'm speaking Greek. But it puts players in conflict. It puts this guy here and here in conflict. Okay, I'm not going to get into all that again about why don't you put him here on buck and then read him. Because if I want to run B gap, by God, I'll call power. If I want to run C or D gap, I'll call buck. All right, and I don't trust a high school or sub-varsity DN to squeeze and do what he's been coached to do. He's going to sit his butt right here and squat or run his happy fanny up the field. And you can say, oh, no, we coach our guy. Okay, all right. In the words of Jack Nicholson, go sell crazy somewhere else because I'm full up over here at Coach Chip's house. So back over here to the buck on the right. So we're going to go boom, get the ball, come flat, make that 90-degree cut right here. You do the cone drill. You got to get the big book of bucks. See that great drill? Yeah, I'm doing a lot of advertising these videos. Remember, those of y'all that keep up with old Coach Chip, you know I'm retired now. I got to have something to supplement that income. And notice now, instead of kicking, and you say, well, you know, he's outside of him, Coach. It don't matter because he's in motion. And if you consistently do that, they're not going to know whether to wind their butt or scratch their watch. I'm telling you, especially if he's got his hand in the dirt. All he knows before he put his hand down is what he saw before he put his hand down. And we're not putting the Mike backer, the one, or the safety, the guys that can see everything happening in front of him in a bind. We're putting this guy's got his hand in the grass in a bind. And he put his hand down, and last thing he saw was 2x2. Last thing he saw over here was 2x2. Now he hears linebackers and DBs yelling motion, in, in. But what does that mean to him? He ain't seeing it. And I hope he is watching all this stuff instead of watching his keys, instead of watching the ball or whatever. And you can see how it hits wider right here. You can see the guard now, instead of wrapping tight, has wrapped out here. He wraps wider because, look, you got the extra down block out here. You got the wider down block. He's coming right here. Eyes inside, looking for that scraping Mike coming from right there. Now here it is versus an odd front. And this time I put the tight end in just to put the tight end in for no reason, just to do it. Over here, we did, it's a 2x2 to begin with. Ends up in what a lot of defensive coordinators will call this trips because you got three receivers over here that have access to the routes because that H can slip out. So you motion into kind of a trips thing and you got your power just like you did. Now this one hits a little wider because now you have the tight end. I don't like running gap down backer power with a tight end as much as I love without a tight end because you're taking somebody away from it. You're taking them away from it when you split him out. And also it makes the thing makes the power hit tighter when you have the tight end out. And notice this will make it hit a little bit wider. Now it could hit right here. You're not guaranteed that. So this is, you're going to press that A gap, press that guard's booty right here. Notice the pull's a little wider. Why? Because now there's a 4-tech instead of a 3. So you're going to wrap around that down block from the Y right here, if everything does right, and you hit a little bit wider. And now you still got your J block right here. He's motioned over right before the snap. Gear down, gear down, gear down. Boom, go kicking. Over here it's buck versus odd. Again, looks just alike, but it hits a little bit wider. Notice it going A, B, C, D. Hitting D. I like buck with a tight end because sometimes you can force that corner to support run. No play drawn up because I wanted to show you something versus an under front. The power of the buck versus an under front. Another reason why you need both, or you're going to convert your buck to a wide power when they give you this right here. Don't tell me your center can reach that guy. Jeff Saturday couldn't reach that guy if he doesn't want to be reached, especially if he's a 2-eye, he's on the inside shoulder of the guard and not on the strong shoulder of the center. This is where you got, the big book of bucks. We talk about calls you can make. Now you can pull your tackle, or you can pull your center if you got a center that can pull, and you're getting into all that stuff. All you got to do is have both these plays, and you're good. So if you get, and I know I got 12 guys on the field because I wanted to show you both things. If you want to, you can just run the buck and just make some kind of call where everybody knows we ain't got but one puller. You're going to hit really wide out here and look like a power sweep. You're going to have that one puller getting out in front right there because everybody's blocking down. You see what I'm talking about? That's if you're running buck, because now that center is in a world of hurt. You can get a double right here if you want to, or you just block him back onto 3. That's for the buck. But what you can do, take that Y out, put your H right in here, and now you run power versus an under. I love power versus an under front. We would motion the H just to get an under look. We would line him up over here and let him set their strength over here, and then motion him right before the snap, because now the gap you're trying to hit is empty from the jump. You got a great angle for your J block. You got a good angle coming down right here for your backside backer. You got a great angle for your down block on the shaded nose or the 2-eye, and you're wrapping right here to a hole that was already open. That's why you need both plays. In my opinion, you need both plays. It's not one or the other. Power or buck? The answer should be yes. If somebody asks you that, yes. They say, if you got to pick one. I'm not going to pick one. I'm not going to pick one. Now, if I'm an I formation team, yeah, we're going to run power. There's no doubt. Okay, but if you're not an I formation team, if you are in the gun, if you run offset, if you run sidecar, run both, because you're putting players in a bind. You're putting them in conflict. All right, here are some of the resources available free from Football Talk with Coach Chip. Why? Because I want to give back to the profession that was so good to me for 40 years. I retired from on-the-field coaching. I did not retire from coaching coaches. I did not retire from football. I did not retire from being a resource for you or a provider of resources for you. Why? Because I loved the game. The game was good to me. The people in the game, all the coaches, all these years, they were good to Coach Chip. The kids, I want to keep giving back. Everything I've got in my life, I can trace back to football. I mean, when you do something for 40 years, that better be the case. But these are just some of the things. Some of it's under center. Some of it's got a lot of gun stuff because that's where the game has evolved over time. You can see I've got the under center things over here on the right. I'm not going to keep talking about all this. You can pause it and look at it yourself. All right, get your copy of the O-line manual for gap down backer blocking, for the gap scheme blocking, or the Big Book of Bucks by hitting me up at siegel.chip@gmail.com. Okay, they're 30 each. I started out when I first put them out, they were 20, but hey, inflate, if everything else has gone up, you've been to the grocery store, Hoss, hey, I got to pay for groceries too. $30 each. You can get both of them for $50. Tell you what I'll do. I'll throw in the playbook for $60. So you get 3 publications for $60. And the playbook can kind of give you a mindset, give you an idea of my mindset, where I was and how I think and how we'd use formations to manipulate the defense and things like that. I don't expect anybody to copy that playbook verbatim and run an offense exactly like what we ran when we won those championships over in Alabama. But it's a great resource to have to see, all right, how is he thinking this? The offensive line manual is the best thing I've done. And it may not be the best thing out there, but it's the best thing out there that I did as far as how we teach gap down backer. Drills, techniques, all that good stuff is in that over 100 pages. You can't beat that. And then the Big Book of Bucks shows you how we block the buck, how you can pull different people. So when the defense, those dastardly defensive coordinators trying to dick with you and play games with you on defense, how you can make calls and simply pull other players besides the guards. But those things are available. Also, we started the podcast. The first episode is out. I've got some coaches lined up over the summer that I'm going to be interviewing. It's going to be on Spotify. I've got an Apple account. I just can't get the cockeyed thing on. I got to get with somebody a lot younger than me to show me how to do it. But it's on Spotify. So if you got a Spotify, if you don't have a Spotify account, get one. It's free. You don't have to pay the $13 a month. You just get it free. You just get stuck with commercials. But most of y'all are watching commercials. You've probably already seen 2 or 3 on this video on YouTube because you're not paying for the premium. And also the podcast to be on YouTube. It'll just be very little video, if any, available there. But it's just conversation. The first episode was with Josh Pate, 247 Sports, the late kick with Josh Pate, the biggest thing going right now in college football besides the actual game itself. All right. Until next time, be elite.